Today we are holding a question and answer session with regards to what apprentice recruitment and apprenticeships look like for Paradigm Precision, who are a significant employer within the Burnley area. We've also got Neil Burrows, Assistant Principal for Apprenticeships and Adult Education at Burnley College also. So I'll start off by asking Nikki to introduce herself.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nikki Wright. I am the HR Director for Paradigm Precision. I look after the international group. We are a large engineering manufacturing company in Burnley, and we do employ a large number of apprentices.
Thanks very much, Nikki. So the idea of this is to give our apprenticeship applicants and their parents some confidence that apprenticeships are seeing some recovery following the recent coronavirus situation, and how we are supporting yourselves as a business to recruit those candidates, and how we are sending the message out to our parents and applicants to make sure they feel confident in their choices to become an apprentice within whichever business they choose. So just for a minute or so, Nick, can you just talk us through your business and the types of activities that you carry out, please?
Yeah, no problem. So we look after the aviation sector. So we make sure that we manufacture some, lots of different kind of gas industrial turbine components, aviation components, and really we have a number of different tasks on site that we look at our apprentices for. So predominantly we have aviation engineering, and that can be anything from welding, sheet metal working, machining, fitting, up into a lot of the supporting roles as well. So the supporting roles consist of, your purchasing, supply chain, and finance, and sales. So we do have, a hub really in Burnley that we look for our apprentices to work on.
So in terms of those apprentices that you've got that work within Paradigm now, what sort of numbers of apprentices do you currently have at the moment?
So we currently have 21 apprentices across all different age groups, across all different year groups, and also really across the different types of the business that we have as well. So we do have a few people in support, but the majority of our apprentices are actually in the engineering sector.
And could you share with us some of the roles and the jobs that those guys actually carry out in terms of their particular skill that they are learning whilst in the business?
Yeah, absolutely. So the majority of our apprentices, like I said, are engineering. So we do have a few machinists. So they're both manual and CNC machinists. We also do have fitting and sheet metal working, welders. We're also looking for maintenance as well. It's something that we need to make sure we continue on with the recruitment for. And we've also got one of our employees is actually looking after an aspect of finance as well at the moment.
Thank you very much for that. So in terms of the recruitment of an apprentice, whether it is for a technical role or a support role, as you've alluded to earlier, what are the things that you as a business are looking for in that candidate, in the applicant that comes through?
We always say that we can teach anything with the assistance of yourselves, and also the skill set that we've got on site. We can teach anything. What we're looking for in our candidates is that absolute curiosity and that want to be able to ask the questions, ask why we do certain things, and to be really curious about the business and as to how things work. We just want people to have the right energy, the right passion, and the want to work in engineering, and especially with aviation as well. We'll teach the rest of it.
Thanks, Nikki. Neil, do you have anything to add to that in terms of what kind of attributes an apprentice needs?
I do, yeah. I think Nikki's just it's the nail on the head there. It's absolutely spot on what she's looking for. We've had a great relationship with Paradigm over the years, and it's really good to see that they're continuing that recruitment. I think, and I know quite a few of the apprentices that have gone on to do real good things through Paradigm. They want that passion for a young person, and I think their recruitment process, they get the right people, and one of them things is because Paradigm aspire those young people to be able to achieve what they want to do in the business. You look at some of the awards that some of Paradigm's apprentices have won. It's great, and the progression. Not only do they do that apprenticeship, but then they get that opportunity to go and do higher qualifications as well. So for someone to to someone to start off and be looking for an apprenticeship, what Nicky's saying is absolutely right. They need that drive, that passion, they need that right attitude. And if they've got that, then obviously Paradigm are really interested in that young person. And that's been the same for a number of years I've worked with Paradigm. And like I said, it's great to see the continuing this over, you know, as now we're all recovering from this pandemic.
Thanks, Neil. So the things that you've alluded to there, then, Nicky, the curiosity and the will to learn and the want to be involved in your industry. What advice are you giving there to an applicant? How do they get those attributes over to you guys? What's the best way for them to stand out from the crowd so that Paradigm will put them through for interview and look to take them further through to the recruitment process?
What we tend to do is when we look at the CV and we do their CV sifting, we're looking at different things that are on the CV. So, you know, your work experience, if they've done any Duke of Edinburgh awards, if they're doing any extracurricular activities that would make them look like they're curious. So, you know, I know that you run, or did pre-COVID, you know, you were running a session where you were actually allowing the young engineers to be, you know, aspiring engineers. So it's all things that we can actually look at to say, well, they obviously are interested because they're doing things in their personal life that's making them more marketable to us. That's what will get you an interview with us.
Oh, thank you. And then from a Paradigm point of view, it can either be a Paradigm culturalist or it can be your own personal view. Well, what do you think is the most important attribute for a young applicant to have, and why?
I would come back to that curiosity. Okay, and the reason that I say that, and that's probably both reflected in my own opinion, and it's also reflected in Paradigm's opinion as well, is the future of our industry relies on younger people, or people that are young in their career, that are going to be coming into the business to ask why. And if they don't ask why and they don't challenge the status quo, then we're never going to be able to change. We're never going to be able to have new ideas. So when they're curious and they're worried about, or they're concerned about anything, they want to ask why. It really helps us to engage with them to make sure that they actually bring new ideas into the business. So I would say that is probably critical to us.
Thanks, Nicky. And from a Themis point of view, Neil, would you add anything to that in terms of what that young person needs to do?
Yeah, obviously, I think that willingness to learn, that commitment that we need to see from young people. I think being a Themis apprentice, I keep talking about passion as well. They've got to have that passion. It's quite a rigorous recruitment process. They've got to go through 2 or 3 stages with Themis to get to that level where we can put them in front of these employees like Paradigm. When we do that, we know that we're putting the best ones in front of them. And it's that rigorous process that gets them into that employer. So these young people have got to get that application in. They've got to know the sectors that they want to work in. And like Nicky said, it's that passion and determination to get that job at the end of the day. These young people probably have had a rough year or 2 with school. You know, this last 12 months has been really tough. This will see this recruitment drive for Themis over the next few months will show us that the ones that really want to work, that want that apprenticeship, you know, they've had a rough time probably at school and gone through quite a lot of things. And we'll see these young people that do want to aspire and it's up to us to inspire them to let them know what kind of jobs are available. And going back to what Nicky was saying about Paradigm, the range of skills there, how attractive is that to a young person to get an opportunity to do an apprenticeship, not just in one area, but they cover lots of skills at Paradigm, and it's a great opportunity for them if they are successful.
Thank you very much. I mean, one of the things I want to just cover now is sort of the reputation of apprenticeships across the piece. I mean, we know, don't we, that the apprenticeships have suffered significantly since the coronavirus situation, with employers such as yourselves and other businesses within our region not being in a position to recruit the same numbers that they've recruited in the past due to issues with supply chain and work and order books and things like that. But in the past, apprenticeships have often been seen as the as the poorer relationship sometimes to more formal academic education. We know that's not true. Neil certainly knows that's not true, and Paradigm do as well, as you've shown your support for apprenticeships over these past years. But in your opinion, what is it that makes sort of the apprenticeship stand out and highlight the skills of those young people?
So from my point of view, the reason that I would always advise people to go down the apprenticeship route is they're getting hands-on experience whilst they're earning, and they're getting hands-on experience in a situation, in a work environment where they've got really professional people supporting them, training them, making sure that they're going to be passing off their tacit knowledge to them. And even though, there is always this debate about, well, should we go through to full-time education versus apprenticeships? Companies like ours, as Neil alluded to before, we will sponsor people through to degree level. And it seems silly that you would actually go and get into so much debt now, and that you would try and get into a full-time college course. It doesn't give you really that much work experience. When we're willing to do that, we're willing to give you day release. And we're willing to build our pipeline for the future. So, not only does it benefit us, but it also benefits an individual. And I would strongly urge anybody to really think about apprenticeships nowadays. I think they're very strong.
And with that in mind, then, Nikki, what as a leading employer with history with looking after apprentices and working with Themis and Burnley College, how do you support your apprentices within the business? What extra things do you do for them?
We do all sorts of different things for them. So we've got a rotation plan in place at the moment where they would rotate throughout the business, because that's one of the things that we don't want them to do. We don't want them to stagnate and just be an expert in one field. We want to try and give them experience of everywhere within the business, because it helps us find the right fit for them, and it helps them find the right fit for us as well. We will also give them a mentor to make sure that they've got that person that they can go to, not only from a support technical point of view, but also from a more softer side. So if they're struggling with their workload, if they're struggling with kind of balancing work and life, or they're just struggling being in work as well, it's a big change from them going from a college situation or from a school situation into the workplace. We'll make sure that they've got a mentor as well. And then on top of that, then we will then also give them the financial support as well, to make sure that they are able to become qualified and that they can do their degree level. All we would say is that we expect the same support back, that they would actually support us and give us what we want, and then it's there for them to take.
Paul, I think going just touching back on the apprenticeship versus the full-time route. There's no right or wrong for these young people. They've got to be able to understand both sides of it. So that process for a Themis apprentice to go through that 2 or 3 stage recruitment with us is to have them discussions. There'll be some young people that are very focused and want to go and work in an engineering sector, in an aerospace sector. There'll be some young people that are not sure. So that process of Themis and the Themis team here at Burnley College work with those young people for 2 or 3 months prior to these interviews to make sure that it is right for them. Both routes are absolutely fine if that young person makes that choice. If somebody's not sure and wants to do that full-time education, go and do the degrees and go and get as many qualifications as they can, and they can then make that transition with the support from colleges like yourselves into industry. But if somebody is really focused on wanting to work, to like Nikki said, to learn while they're learning and to get all them enrichment things, then it's a perfect way. But what I would suggest for young people is look at the sectors, look at what's on offer apprenticeship wise, look at how much development these employees we work with give them young people, and then come and have the discussions with us through that recruitment process, those first interviews, second interviews. We are a specialists, because our engineering specialists that work at college, they've all been in industry, they understand the industry, they understand the apprenticeships, and have them discussions to make sure it is what they want. Because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that these employees recruit the right young people, that 6, 7, 8 months down the line, they say, no, this is not for me. We've got to make sure that we get them to that right level before we put them in front of that employer. And then employees like Paradigm make that right choice of who they recruit. and then
Thanks.
employees have that trust in us to push that to develop them forward.
Yeah, thank you, Neil. Just a couple of questions just to finish off, really, Nikki. I mean, one, from sort of looking ahead, and obviously nobody's got a crystal ball. Nobody knows what's necessary around the corner. Nobody knew this was going to happen, did they, 12 months ago in this situation? But in your particular sector within engineering, what do you see as the major developments that are on the cards that are happening now that are going to safeguard the industry moving forward?
We've got a lot of things that we're working on at the moment. So, I do feel like obviously the pandemic has been very tough for us, and it's been a very difficult year for us from an aviation point of view. However, what we can see is, especially with the vaccine, we can start to see that things are starting to come back very, very slowly. So whilst 2021 will also be another challenging year, we do believe that 2022 will be a lot better. We've also managed to get onto a lot of new projects in Burnley, especially in Paradigm as well. I know there's a lot of new projects that are kind of kicking about with the local supply chain as well. So it's not just Paradigm Precision, but there's a lot of new projects that people are working on, which will mean that obviously we'll get volume back into the businesses going forward. So it will be exciting times from 2022 onwards. We will get there. And, the future's looking very, very bright for us.
That's really good to hear. The last question then. So for somebody who spends an awful lot of time working with apprentices and dealing with various staff across the business, what one piece of advice are you going to leave our listeners with who are looking for apprenticeship this year?
I would just say never give up. If you absolutely want to do an apprenticeship, keep asking the questions why, keep asking, be curious, but also just be diligent and make sure that you never give up. Yes, you may have some knockbacks in your career. It's very difficult at the moment because of, from a war on talent point of view, there's probably more talent than there is jobs at the moment. But just keep getting that experience and just keep making sure that you push yourself forward, because you will get the break.
Perfect. Thank you, Nikki. I appreciate and sharing some of your thoughts with us and our young apprentices and parents alike. And for everybody out there listening, this will be posted on our social media platforms over the coming weeks. And if you've got any questions at all for Paradigm, and if you want to send those through to Themis, and we'll be able to direct them to the people within that business that's the most suitable to answer your question. So from Burnley College and Themis, thank you very much for everybody's time, and we'll see you all very soon. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Nikki.